Hello, it's Ilvana from AllServiceNow Learning, and today we will cover risk assessment for change. So, how do you create a change risk assessment, or how do you modify the out-of-box risk assessment? So, in order to even get to the change risk assessments, we would need to activate a plugin. I believe it might be a paid plugin. Might need to check on that, but you would go to plugins, and if you type in assessment, you would go then to change management, and there will be a change management risk assessment that you would need to install. It said that it's paid, but you need to probably check on that. So once you activate that, you can go to assessment, search for assessment, and then you would see change and administration. So over here you can see the risk assessment and the assessment designer. So going into a risk assessment, this is the current risk assessment that was loaded as demo data. So in order to go ahead and take a look at that, this particular risk assessment, it's going off when the record is active, normal or emergency is the type, the state is new, assess or authorize, and if it's active is true, normal or emergency, and the 3 states. So let's actually go to a change to take a look at it. And let's go ahead and create a new normal change. We'll call it test. All right, and let's go ahead and fill these in. If we go request approval, let's go back actually and see, because change risk assessments. It did say when when the record is normal or emergency, state is new, assess or authorize. So since we do have this record, we should have a link below here. Oh, there it is. But a lot of the times what you can actually do is you can edit the UI, so it's easier for you to see. What you can go ahead and do is create a form button. So if you update that, now you can actually have a button up here that can take you immediately to the risk assessment. So since this change now is normal type and it's active and the state is assess, we would go ahead and click this button. Once we click this button, a list of questions would pop up, and the questions may vary. So it's the questions you either would like to have or not. That's completely up to you, but or if you would like to rename these, that can all be done from the other end. So let me show you how. If you go back to the risk assessments, you can either set this one to false. If you would like to have your own set of questions, or if you just wanted to modify these questions that are on here. So if we were to set this one to false and then do an insert and stay and copy majority of the things on here and rename it, we can do that. But you can't have two active assessments. So let's go ahead and or you possibly can if you have maybe different conditions set. So I haven't tested that yet. But anyhow, normally people just have one assessment. And let's go ahead and let's go ahead and say that we would like to go ahead and change this. So what we see is the conditions, and then down below we have the risk assessment categories. And the categories will go ahead and have the, if I scroll down, you'll see once the form loads. Okay, so the categories will have the conditions, and then down below it will have the questions. So either what we can do is once you open the question, you can either add to this list, or we can remove from this list, or we can modify from this list. But what we need to go ahead and what we can find on here, you can ask the question, and then you will give it a type. So depending on what you are looking for, you have a choice of things to select. So whatever you pick, so that like the Likert scale would go ahead and give you an option to display the critical, somewhat critical, and not critical answers, and then you can input the value. So the value will later on be calculated. So these scores for each question will determine in the end, and I will take you back. Now, so the minimum score is 1 and the maximum score is a 4 between the choices that I set for each question. And then depending on what, right here, but here's, it goes up to 3. So your maximum here would probably be 9, 13, 17. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the minimum score. So if we go back and then we take a look at our risk assessment page again, we have the thresholds here. So the thresholds are technically set here. So anything that's between 0 and a 6 is considered on the point scale, is considered a low. And then between 6 and 11 is considered moderate. And then anything after 11 would be considered high. And I believe the assessment had a total score of 17. So anything then technically between 11 and 17 would be considered a high. And you can modify these. You can add also something else to it if you like. So let's go ahead and say that we would like our categories to have a test question where you can add a new how hard was this assessment? Let's say that's it. And if we want to make this question mandatory, we just click mandatory. And let's go ahead and say we want to have it Okay, we can go back to the Likert scale. All right, so we will save this. And low, and we will give it a 1. Then we can go to moderate, give it a 2. Or say that it was hard and give it a 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and update this. And now what we can do is let's go back to our change. Okay, so here's our risk assessment. So the question here is test question: how hard was this assessment? I did not give it a order, so that's why I showed up here. But if you give it an order, it can also show up at the end or in the middle, wherever you need it.